Good morning, fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for January 17th, 2025. Well, I hope everyone has had a good evening, a good rest, because we have another wild and woolly market day coming up with more data coming our way. And we've already got the market gapping up once again this morning, trying to pump that pre-market. It seems like that's the only game that we have nowadays. We pump in the pre-market, then we just kind of fade it out. We'll see if we can hold this one today. So let's take a look at what happened overnight. First off, if we take a look at Asian markets were kind of mixed last night. Australia was down, the Nikkei was down, India was down, we had Hong Kong up 0.31%, and Shanghai was up slightly 0.18%. If we look at European markets this morning, we've got European markets green across the board and decidedly bullish over there in the DAX, up a full 1%. The FTSE is up 1.13%, and the CAC is also up 1%. So moving pretty strongly over there. Here in the U.S. markets, we are also very bullish here this morning with the Dow futures up 174 points, reversing yesterday's move. And we've got the S&P 500 futures are up $23.50, and the NASDAQ futures are zooming up 101 points here at the moment. Let's take a look at what's going on in our bond market. Our bonds continue to see just a little bit of weakness. We're easing back in these bonds, and that is a good thing for the market. We've got the 2-year bonds at 4.23%, the 10 years at 4.59%, and those 30 years at 4.83% this morning. That's certainly helping things out. Now, if we take a look at the oil market, let's take a look at energy here, XLE. Trying to push to the upside this morning, and we've got oil futures also trying to move a little bit higher after a little bit of back and forth in it yesterday. Oil right now up 15 cents a barrel, exactly $78 a barrel. Brent crude right now $81.40 a barrel, moving up just slightly. Now, natural gas had a good day yesterday, but it's giving it back this morning. Right now, pulling back almost 16 cents here on the gap down here this morning, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. This has been quite elevated, and I have actually already sold short calls against it, so almost glad that it's easing back here just a little bit in the natural gas area. If we take a look at precious metals, well, gold had a great day yesterday. It was moving up nicely, faded back a little bit in the afternoon, and now this morning a little bit lower. We pushed up here into this resistance area of the chart, and I had suggested during an e-learning class that good chance that that resistance will do its job, and we are fading this back now a little bit. So watch that carefully. As this rests back, I want everyone to understand there's nothing bearish about this chart at the moment. We'll have to see if it can hold this upside trend. If it can hold this upside trend, then we may have that opportunity. We push right on through that resistance and keep going up, particularly if we continue to see a weakening dollar, and our dollar continues to weaken just ever so slightly here this morning. Well, actually, it's turned back higher here at the moment. We now have the dollar up 10 cents. It was a little bit weaker when I got up this morning, so watch that carefully here. That dollar strength is going to be really, really important to all of these precious metals and any hard kind of commodity. That'll be really important if that dollar begins to weaken here with bond yields pulling back. Let's also take a look at what we've got going on here in silver this morning. By the way, gold futures down $18.10 an ounce this morning. If we take a look at silver this morning just slightly lower, down 39 cents at 31.33 an ounce on silver. We've also got copper. Copper, you can see in COPX here trying to move up just a tiny little bit, but we've actually got copper down, but ever so slightly, only about half a cent. Platinum is up just ever so slightly, and palladium is a little bit lower here this morning as well, as we're seeing that dollar starting to tick back higher. Let's take a look at our cryptos here this morning. Well, cryptos are really happy here at the moment. BITO popping back above 100,000 here, up $1,780 a coin here on Bitcoin. 1.77%. We've got Ether that was really struggling yesterday, up now 2.72%, as the volatility in these are still just remarkable, whipping quite a bit. So keep an eye on that. Mostly bullish across the board there on the cryptos this morning. So let's settle in and let's get ready for the Friday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thanks so much for being here. Very much appreciate it. Let's take a look at these index charts, see if we can figure out how we might want to approach the market for today. Remember, we want to look at these charts for what they are, not for what we want them to be. We want to shake off that bias and really focus in on what the potentials here are in these charts. Now, if we take a look at the diamonds here, certainly nice big breakthrough here, that downtrend. And now we've got a couple of days of rest in here against this resistance in the chart, and we're trying to pump up and see if we can break it again here this morning. Watch that carefully. If we can break through this area here today, well, the next area, I think we need to recover that big black candle right there. We need to get back over that big black candle. So if we can see that those bulls continue to find inspiration, I would look up into here, and then we'll start working through. We've got a little gap there that we could fill, and we could start working our way back up into additional areas of resistance in the chart here in the diamonds. Now, one of the things we want to be paying attention to as well is we've got that 50-day moving average coming into view, and one of my favorite short patterns is what we call a blue ice failure, and that's where we fail through the 50, rally back to it, and then we fall back down. So watching this closely as we rally back up into this area here, I'm going to be watching that pretty closely. Notice our short-term moving averages, the 20, the 34 exponential moving average, those have crossed down through. So this is getting a bit of a stretch as we push up here in toward that 50. Watch that closely. If we have any kind of hint, we could easily see that fall. Now, it doesn't mean we're going to make a new low, but we could certainly come back and retest some support or even fill this gap to the downside if those bears were to engage. So watch that carefully here in the diamonds. If we take a look at our SPY, SPY is a little bit worse condition, if you ask me. We are still potentially making a lower high here, and although this is that downtrend here, we've tipped our hand just above that, I want you to notice that we've got considerable price resistance here still that we're trying to deal with in the chart. And of course, if those bulls can push through here, well, that next step is to see how do we deal with this, the top of that big black candle there, and then seeing beyond that if we can push into this resistance, which is a fairly substantial resistance in the chart. So watch that closely. And once again, if we take a look at our 50-day moving average, boy, we're tucked right up into that moving average, and we want to notice that our short-term moving averages have already crossed down through. So again, we're kind of stretching this rubber band here on this bounce back up, and that potential blue ice could push us back down. Now, we could certainly go into another low here, into more of a corrective move. But first off, let's see if we can come back down and test this area if the bears get going, and then we'll see if we can maybe fill the gap here, and then we'll worry about getting back down here if those bears do engage. So watch that carefully. Not the best of charts here in the SPY, even though we're getting this bullish push in the pre-market. Let's take a look at our QQQ. Our QQQ, even a worse situation here on the QQQ. As we have pushed back up, we left almost a bearish engulfing candle yesterday in the QQQ, missed it by maybe a few ticks. They're trying to gap that back up here this morning, but you'll want to note that we're pushing right into this price resistance and of course right into this downtrend. So the first step for those bulls today is to see if we can push through these resistance areas and break through the black candle of yesterday to see if we can break on through into this next level. If those bears, however, find inspiration today, let's be watching this area of support right in here, and then that potential we could fill this gap back into this support. And then, of course, we'll start worrying about the lows here and maybe even some new lows if those bears do get going. Now, notice we're right up here again. We're banging our head against that 50-day moving average, trying to see if we can break through there. And it's interesting to me that we seem to, the only move that we seem to have right now is to pump it in the pre-market and try to pop it up. To get as many people as we can to jump into that trade. So be really careful here, guys, against that 50, up against these downtrends. Be really careful about chasing markets into the open at the moment. If we take a look at the Russell, same story, different verse. We're pumping back up here, and we're pumping right into some major areas of price resistance in the chart. And we'll want to be watching this closely here. We kind of got a triple whammy here of this upside trend that we had failed and this downside trend coming into play, along with this pretty significant price resistance area in the chart. So watch that carefully here. If those bulls can find inspiration, then we'll need to push up through there and see if we can break those resistance levels to start moving on up. And then we still have this big old dark candle here that we're going to have to best before we can really get something major going in the market. And again, looking at those moving averages, you can see short-term moving averages have crossed well below the 50-day. Our 50-day is still looming up there as a potential target to try and hit. But yeah, we'll see. We're going to need some good data here to maybe push us through, and it's certainly possible because we've got plenty of data coming our way here in the next several trading sessions. So watch that carefully. Let's take a look at our VIX. Our VIX had a little bit of a bump up yesterday. We saw that bit of selling coming in to the close, and you can see pumped back up here just a little bit. We ended up holding this price support and holding on to this trend. We broke it just ever so slightly, but then pushed right back up. So with the bullishness this morning, we want to see that if we're going to follow through, we need to see those bulls really push this fear down, break down below that trend, because if we have another pop and drop like we've been seeing so much of here recently, the morning pump, and then we can't go anywhere, watch that carefully here. If those bears do take a hold of this, then start pushing up. That's going to be a little bit of concern, a little bit of worry for the market. Let's take a look at our T20s, our T2122. Remember, everyone, the T2122 is the 4-week new high, new low ratio. And that's all it is. It's looking at all the stocks out there in the New York Stock Exchange, 4-week new high or new low ratio. And We're struggling here just a little bit. Yesterday we kind of hooked over just a little tiny bit, but what that does mean is we've opened up a little bit of an opportunity here for that gap up this morning. We might pump this up and get a nice gap up, but just realize that we're running out of space here, and we want to watch this for the potential that we could whipsaw today, just simply because, well, I'll show you here in just a second, but watch that carefully because we're going to be up here in that bearish reversal zone here in T2122. If those bears, however, find any inspiration today, well, you want to make note that we've opened up a really big opportunity for them if they can find any reason to start pushing back to the downside. So watch that closely. And then if we take a look at our T2108, our T2108 had a really good response yesterday, moving up, and that is a good sign to see. We needed this relief rally in the market. And as you can see, breaking through this resistance here, stretching to the upside, we broke through this little area of resistance, and now we're going to be seeing if we can get back up into here. And then of course, if we pop through there, then I'm going to start watching up here toward 50%, where we can get about 50% of our stocks back above the 40-day moving average. That would be a heck of a move, but we'll watch that closely. Certainly a possibility the way the market is hopping and popping around. Now, if those bears were to find inspiration, well, once again, we've got these support levels down here that we'll be watching if those bears were to engage and push us back lower. Our T2107 also had a nice response yesterday, but wasn't super impressive. Remember, this is a percentage of stocks above their 200-day moving average, and you can see pushing back up here toward this resistance in the chart. We've got significant resistance above, and we're coming up here to about 50% of the stock. So with a good move in the pump out this morning, we could actually test that 50% area and maybe even break through and start testing some of these resistance areas above. So this has been a really nice relief rally, but remember, that's all it is until we can prove that we can hold a higher low in the market. And here's the problem that we have. With this big push to the upside, we have had very little market breadth participating in this move. So we had these big upside pops, but there's no market breadth. And part of the reason is the blackout period that we're in. And we're deep into the blackout period where most companies can't do any corporate activity or any buyback activity or anything like that, which is a big portion of our market volume nowadays. We'll want to watch that pretty carefully here. If we get follow through breadth today, maybe this changes if that breadth follows through, but we'll want to watch that closely here, because if we get any fade here, and we've been seeing that so much, we get these pop-up moves and there's no breadth to follow that move to the upside. So watch that closely here in T2101. Now, if there's any chance that things get a lot better here in the market, well, what we're going to have to be watching is, of course, our economic and earnings calendars. And there's a lot of hope on these earnings this quarter. We'll see if they can produce enough to continue to push us higher. But we have this morning, we've got a housing starts and permits coming out. They're expecting the housing starts to decline to go up from 1.2 to 1.3, and looking at permits to decline from 1.5 to 1.4. So watch that closely, just a little bit of moving around in there. We did see in our housing market index yesterday that inflation may still be there as those housing prices continue to increase. Industrial production numbers will be very interesting today. We have had some very strange manufacturing numbers out here this week. So let's watch this one closely. Industrial production, they're looking for that to move up from a negative 0.1 to a 0.3. Manufacturing output to increase from a 0.2 to a 0.4. And they're suggesting our capacity utilization is moving up to 77%. So watch that closely today. That is a market moving number that we'll want to be paying attention to. Then, of course, we have a Baker Hughes rig count as usual and a Treasury International Capital. On the earnings front this morning, we've got several earnings, a lot of regional banks in here today. I'm going to run through these quickly. We've got a materials, I used to do a lot of business with this company back in the day when I was building houses. But let's take a look. We've got CFG, regional bank, that will be reporting today. Looks like we got a little bit of bearishness starting there. H-band, another regional, got a little bullishness going there. Fastenal is the company I used to do a whole bunch of business with in the building sector, and that's looking pretty ugly here this morning, so keep an eye on that. We've got Regions Financial also feeling a little bit on the bearish side here today. State Street will be reporting a little tiny bit of bullishness maybe coming into that. TFC reporting, and there is that's one of the first regional banks that are looking pretty darn good, so keep an eye on that. We've got WBS that will be in there. A little pop and drop happening, but a little tiny improvement in that one. And last but not least, we're going to get a little bit of oil news here this morning. We've got Schlumberger reporting today, and looks like we've got a little bit of a boost going on in Schlumberger. Watch that carefully as it pumps right up into this resistance area of the chart. So those are your notables for today. How about we take a look at some stocks that could be setting up for today? But before we do that, guys, if you can do me that favor, this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube and also click that bell icon when it pops out so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful, helpful to your trading, if you could do me that favor, also click that thumbs up button and leave a brief comment. That helps the channel to grow. Thank you so much, everyone who does take the time to do that. Thank you, everyone who takes the link of this video and shares it out on your social media feed. That helps the channel find new folks that might be interested in this content. And I gotta tell you, I'm humbled every day. I never in my wildest dreams would have suspected this many people would be interested in something that I do every day anyway, to help me prepare for the market day, to kind of set myself on a better path instead of feeling that emotional tug every day in the market. It helps me put perspective on what's going on in the market, and I'm just so grateful that so many others do, where I don't provide any prediction, I don't provide any of that hype. And so thank you, everyone, for supporting this kind of content on YouTube. I do truly appreciate it. Also, thanks to everyone who supports the channel through the Buy Me a Coffee link. If you want to find that, it's just right below the title of the video. Let's take a look at some of these stocks that could be setting up for today. But remember, everyone, these are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. You need to do your own due diligence and be very careful in this market. Remember, we're going into a 3-day weekend. We're going to have tremendous uncertainty about some of the big changes that are coming with the new administration. Now, that some of them could be very good for the market, some of them could be very bad for the market, some of them could be just so much uncertainty around them, no one really knows, and so the market could play that a little bit cautiously. So be really careful here. Make sure you have a plan to protect yourself, and remember, anything is possible over a 3-day weekend. But that being said, let's take a look at a few of these charts. Take a look at Rivian. Rivian had a nice day yesterday, popping up. You can see it's been struggling in here just a little bit after rallying But if this can hold up in this area here, I would watch Rivian for that opportunity that this could continue that stretch and see if we can push right up into this resistance in the chart. So watch that carefully on Rivian. I do want to point out that there is maybe, you might have to turn your head a little bit sideways to see it, but there maybe is a little bit of a hint of a head and shoulders starting to form in here. So keep a close eye on that as well. IBM, take a look at IBM. Now IBM has rallied right into a price resistance here in the chart and right back up. Oh, come on, give me that. Right back up through that 50-day moving average. So we're going to want to watch this closely. Remember, we can hold that 50-day, and if we can hold that 50-day, maybe we've got something going here. We break that downtrend, get something going here at IBM. But I still want to be watching this for the potential. If we can get any bearish activity in here as we approach that resistance, I think there's still a possibility IBM could fail that 50-day moving average. So watch that carefully here in the chart. Also, when it comes to some bearishness, take a look at AMD. I think AMD is really set up for a potential short. They've had several downgrades coming into this chart, so watch that carefully. We're pushed up here into this price resistance of the chart. That failure in here yesterday gives me that impression that we could really start moving this back on down here. So watch that closely here in AMD. Now, I'm not going to say that about Medtronic. Now, Medtronic having a big, sharp move back to the upside. We're approaching some big resistance here in the chart. But if we were to get a little bit of rest or consolidation here, a little pullback in Medtronic, and maybe we might have to do it below this resistance area. Maybe we end up pushing straight on through and do it above. But any kind of rest or pullback, that would establish an upside trend. Watch that carefully if that could hold in Medtronic, but quite a big move here, kicking this to the other side of the market. A couple trades, and this is a little bit self-serving, but take a look at WHR. WHR is a trade that I hold. I'm holding this as a longer term position. Now it is going to come up on earnings here on the 29th, so you'll want to be paying attention to that. But a nice stretch here to the upside, resting back. Keep an eye on WHR. It might have to consolidate here for quite a while to come back to trend. I'm trading this based on a longer term chart on this weekly, and boy, I am really happy with the way this chart is appearing at the moment on that longer term. So watch that carefully here in WHR. Also, another self-serving just a little bit, PayPal. PayPal's had a nice run back to the upside, holding some support in here on the daily. So you might want to keep an eye on this. If that does hold in here, may have that opportunity for that to turn on higher, push through some of this resistance in the chart. Watch that closely. Once again, I'm holding this based on a weekly. Nice weekly bullish engulfing. If we can get any follow through here, may have some additional upside. Got really great profits in both of those trades and looking good overall. So keep an eye on those. Hanging in there, looking pretty good overall. Take a look at some of the airline stuff out here. Jets looking good. We tried to well, here in the pre-market, we're trying to break this out, getting a little bit of a fade back here, but watch that carefully. If we can pop this resistance here in the chart, then every reason to believe that could continue on higher. And you can look at a lot of the airlines. American Airlines looking strong here. United Airlines looking good. So quite a few of those airlines are showing strength. Delta here has a really nice bullish pattern, popping through this resistance and now just resting it sideways here. It's what I call a pop out of the box. And what I do with trades like this, I just place a price alert above that and I wait. And if those bulls have a reason to step up in here anytime soon, it'll pop that alert and then we'll start moving on through to the upside. So keep an eye there on Delta looking pretty good overall. You got to mention these energy stocks. They are really showing some strength here, and we're really starting to see oil exploration stocks as well picking up here, pushing through some resistance here in the chart. Any rest or pullback consolidation in here, I would look for that next opportunity. The same when we look at stocks like Occidental. Nice little resting pattern in here, again starting to form that pop out of the box pattern where we have that nice little run, we rest. Just place a price alert and wait for that chart to see if we're going to pop and move on up through here on Occidental. And there's quite a few in that oil sector looking good. If you take a look at ET, it is just smoking hot here. And here at the top, look at this. We've got this inverted head and shoulders pattern that showed up here. We're breaking through that neckline of that trade and starting to extend on higher here. So keep an eye on Energy Transfer, looking good. So there's a few stocks for you to pay attention today. I hope you have an awesome day. As always, I wish you all the very best. And I will see you back here bright and early Tuesday morning. Remember, we are closed tomorrow, or on Monday, not tomorrow. We're closed tomorrow too, but we're closed on Monday. And just remember, anything is possible. There's likely some wild volatility that could occur Tuesday morning. So prepare and plan carefully for that risk. Y'all take care, be safe. See you next Tuesday. Wish you all the best.